Welcome to iknowpeople.biz, conversation that connect, bridging the decision gap, where trust meets opportunity.
You know, there's this very specific, kind of deceptive moment in real estate. It's that moment right after the offer gets accepted. You've signed the papers, the under contract banner goes up on Instagram, maybe you pop a bottle of champagne.
You feel like you've done it.
You feel like you've crossed the finish line.
It's the false summit because in reality, you haven't finished anything. You've just entered the combat zone.
Exactly. You've entered the inspection period. And if you look at the data, and these are numbers from Redfin, that celebration is, well, it's wildly premature.
It really is.
In some months, contract cancellations hover around the mid-teens.
That is nearly 1 in 6 deals just falling apart.
After the handshake. And the number one deal killer, it's not financing, it's the inspection.
It is the single most fragile point in the entire life cycle of a transaction. It's that make or break moment where confidence either hardens into certainty or just completely collapses.
And that's what we're doing a deep dive on today. We're looking at exactly why that collapse happens and a specific framework for how to stop it.
We're looking at material from the Liaison Consulting Firm, specifically their Deal Desk series.
And they call this specific entry the proof episode, which to me implies that theory isn't enough when the roof is leaking.
You need proof. Precisely. And what's fascinating here is they don't just talk about fixing houses. We're going to get into construction economics, consumer psychology.
It's deep.
It does. But the core mission today is to solve one specific problem, the translation gap.
Okay, I want to start right there. Because on the surface, an inspection seems so simple. I hire a pro, they look at the house, they give me a report. Where's the gap?
The gap is in the purpose of that document versus what people need from it. An inspection report is designed to do one thing and one thing only.
Document what you see.
Document observed conditions. It's a technical snapshot of defects. It is not designed to produce a clean decision.
It's a list of symptoms, not a treatment plan.
Exactly. But the moment that report lands, usually with a loud thud, you have 3 different people staring at it, and they all want 3 completely contradictory things.
Okay, let's profile the players. Who are we dealing with here?
First, you've got the agent. Their primary drive in this transaction.
Get to the closing table.
They want a path to closing. Then you have the buyer. They're not thinking about commissions. They're thinking about safety, fairness, and, avoiding a money pit.
And then, if it's an investment property...
You have the investor, right. And the investor doesn't care about fairness or feelings. They want an ROI that survives reality.
And the report doesn't help any of them.
Not really. It just gives them a list of 50 things that are broken, with zero context on how those things affect the actual deal.
So the agent sees obstacles, the buyer sees a horror movie, and the investor sees their margin getting crushed.
And no one is speaking the same language.
Correct.
And because no one translates that list of defects into a decision framework, the transaction enters what the source material calls the conflict engine.
I circled that phrase, the conflict engine. It sounds dramatic, but anyone who's bought a house, they know that feeling. It's that week where everyone stops being polite
and start sending angry texts. But the source makes a really interesting point here. They argue this isn't just emotional.
It's structural.
Yes, and this is where we need to geek out a little on construction economics, because it's easy to say, oh, the buyer's just panicking, but the source cites data from ACC International.
The cost engineering people.
Yeah, the Association for the Advancement of Cost Engineering. These are the people who study how much it costs to build, skyscrapers and bridges.
Serious people.
Very serious. And their research shows that early low-definition estimates, they legitimately swing very, very wide.
Meaning the scope is immature.
Exactly. When you're in the inspection period, you don't know what's behind the wall. You just know the wall is wet.
So if I ask 2 different contractors for a quote on that wet wall,
you're going to get 2 wildly different numbers. And here's the kicker, and this is what drives people crazy.
What's that?
Both of them can be rational. One contractor might be quoting a worst case, rip it all out, replace the framing scenario. The other is quoting a patch it, paint it, and pray job.
So you have a buyer holding a $20,000 quote and a seller with a $5,000 one, looking at the same hole in the wall.
And they are living in 2 different financial realities. And neither is technically lying. That's the problem. The definition of the repair is low, so the variance in the price is high.
And then you layer on top of that The American Institute of Architects, the AIA.
Right. The AIA notes that creating change orders, which is what this is, finding new problems, is the most contentious moment on any job site.
It's where disputes happen.
Exactly. So you take that dynamic, shove it into a real estate deal with a 10-day deadline, and you have a recipe for total disaster.
And the deal devolves into what the source calls contractor, quote, roulette.
Quote roulette. It's just screenshots of random text messages from a plumber, panicked emails from the buyer's uncle who knows about houses.
Total guessing games. And that destroys trust.
It does. And when trust is gone, the deal dies. Which brings us to the psychology aspect. The source mentions Nielsen and Trustpilot data.
Right. Why does consumer research matter in a construction discussion?
Because we have to ask, how do people make decisions when they're in chaos? Nielsen research shows we trust recommendations from people we know, and Trustpilot shows that proof reviews, case studies, is the only thing that gets people to adopt a new way of thinking.
So, as an agent or an investor, I can't just tell the other party, trust me, it's fine. My opinion is worthless because I have a bias.
You need a mechanism to prove it's fine. Proof builds belief faster than theory, and that is where Liaison Consulting Firm, or LCF, comes in.
Now, we need to be really clear about what LCF actually is, because reading through this, they sound a little like inspectors, but they aren't.
And they sound like contractors, but they aren't quite that either. It's a crucial distinction.
So what are they?
They define themselves as a third-party post-inspection decision review. They are the layer between the inspection findings and the negotiation table.
They're the translators?
Yes. And they split their services into two specific lanes, which I think is brilliant because an investor needs something very different than a family buying a home.
Let's take the home buyer and agent lane first. They call this the Inspection Clarity Report, or ICR. How does that work?
Okay, so the goal of the ICR is negotiation clarity. They take that massive, scary report and they sort the findings into three buckets.
Okay.
Bucket one, what impacts financing, insurance, or your ability to actually negotiate?
The heavy hitters.
Right. Bucket two, what is just normal for a house this age? And bucket three, what actually deserves attention?
I feel like bucket two, what is normal, is where, like, 90% of deals go to die.
Absolutely. If you are buying a 1970s home and the report says the windows are inefficient, well, yeah, it's a 50-year-old house.
That's not a defect, it's a feature.
It's a feature of the age, but buyers see it as a repair. The ICR filters that noise out so you can focus on the levers that actually matter.
Okay, so that's for the family. What about the investor?
The investor gets the Deal Viability Analysis, or DVA. The goal here isn't negotiation, it's decision clarity.
This uses that traffic light system, right? Go, caution, no go.
Yes. But, and this is the key technical difference, it's not based on market speculation. They aren't telling you, we think this house will be worth $1 million in 6 months.
Which is what every other guru tries to sell you on.
Exactly. LCF ignores all that. They look at budget disruption probability.
That sounds ominous.
It's the most important metric for a flipper or rehabber. It just asks, what are the odds that this renovation is going to cost double what you estimated? They use terms like deal killer scan and phase-based exposure caps.
It sounds almost military, like a risk assessment for a mission.
It has to be. Investors lose money not because they bought the wrong house, but because they underestimated the exposure of the renovation.
Okay, so let's see this in action. The source gives two case studies, one where a deal was saved and one where a deal was killed. Let's start with case study A, the deal saved.
This is your classic agent and buyer scenario. Buyer's under contract on an older home. They love the vibe, love the neighborhood.
And then the inspection report comes back.
And it is a phone book, just page after page of defects.
And the inspection panic sets in.
Immediately. The buyer wants to walk. The seller, on the other hand, sees this huge list and gets defensive. They just refuse to engage with a laundry list of repairs.
And the agent is stuck, watching their commission just evaporate.
Usually this is where the agent starts frantically calling contractors for bids, right?
Right. Just throwing spaghetti at the wall.
But LCF intervened here at the ICR, and they did not just send a list of bids. First, they filtered the noise. They separated safety and livability signals, the things that actually matter, from the cosmetic noise.
So forget the scratched floors, look at the electrical panel.
Exactly. But the real game changer was how they presented the costs. They didn't give exact quotes. They provided planning level ranges.
Okay, push on this for a second. As a buyer, wouldn't I want an exact quote? A range feels vague.
It feels vague, but in this phase, an exact quote is usually a lie. Remember the ACE data. The scope is immature. A range changes the psychology. It shows the financial shape of the problem. It says, look, this isn't a $20,000 problem, but it's not a $500 problem. It's a $4,000 problem, give or take.
It creates a safe zone for the negotiation. It stops the buyer from anchoring high and the seller anchoring low.
Exactly. It de-escalated the friction. The request to the seller became structured, reasonable. The seller engaged because the logic was sound. The buyer calmed down.
Negotiation clarity replaced panic. Deal saved.
Deal saved. Now, flip the script. Case study B. The disaster avoided.
This is the investor scenario.
Right. A value-add deal. On paper, the numbers looked fantastic. The investor thought they had a home run.
Works on paper. The famous last words of real estate.
Indeed. The inspection revealed what LCF calls layered system risks. It wasn't just one big problem. It was the plumbing, plus the electrical, plus structural questions all interacting.
And usually an investor might think, I can handle it. I'll just add a bigger contingency.
That's the trap. LCF applied the deal viability analysis. They started with a core principle. Inspection reports describe conditions. They do not describe financial exposure.
That is a great quote. Just because you know a pipe is rusty doesn't mean you know the real cost.
Precisely. So they ran a deal killer scan, looking for financing threats, margin compression, and they used phase-based exposure caps.
Which means what, practically speaking?
It means they modeled the renovation timeline. They showed the investor, look, if you start this project, you are going to hit a wall in phase 1 where the costs could spiral. If you spend more than X amount here, the project is underwater before you even get to the finish work.
They showed the financial shape of the risk.
And the shape was ugly. The investor realized that if these risks materialized, the project wouldn't just be less profitable, it would be a total loss.
So they walked away.
They walked away, and the source considers this a success.
Which is so interesting.
A massive success. We're so programmed to think closing is the only win. But for an investor, capital preservation is rule number 1. Disaster avoided is a critical success metric.
They walked away with certainty instead of finding out 6 months later.
Exactly.
It's interesting. In both cases, saving the deal and killing it, the hero seems to be this concept of ranges beat random quotes.
It really is the secret sauce. Contractor quote roulette creates polarization. The buyer picks the highest quote to scare the seller. The seller picks the lowest quote to dismiss the buyer.
And they just yell numbers at each other.
Right. LCF uses ranges to shift the question. Instead of which contractor is right, the question becomes, what decision does this financial exposure support right now?
It elevates the conversation from arguing over pennies to managing risk. But I have to play devil's advocate here. I can hear our listeners thinking it.
Go for it.
If I'm looking at this firm, LCF, and they're telling me what needs to be fixed, aren't they just trying to sell me the repair work? Is this just a lead gen machine for their contractor buddies?
That's the skepticism that kills deals, right?
Yeah.
Who benefits from this advice? The source material actually addresses this head-on with something they call the choice moment.
The choice moment. What's that?
It's about maintaining trust through rigid boundaries. They have a strict non-replacement boundary. First, they do not replace licensed inspectors. They just analyze the data. But the big one is about the repairs.
Do they do the work themselves?
They have a division liaison trades and services that can bid on the work, yes. But, and this is the important part, the client is never required to use them.
So there's a firewall.
A rigid one. The client retains full control. They can use their own contractors. They can take that LCF report and shop it around to 10 other people. That neutrality is crucial.
I see. It's the difference between a mechanic saying, you need new brakes and you have to buy them from me right now.
Way.
Versus
a mechanic saying, you need new brakes. Here's exactly why. Here's the range of what it should cost. Now go buy them wherever you want.
I trust the second guy immediately.
Exactly. That's the consumer psychology at play. Advice is only truly trusted when the person giving it doesn't force you to buy the solution from them.
Okay, so we've looked at the chaos, the economics, this framework. If we zoom out, what is the big takeaway here?
I think the big takeaway is that in any complex transaction, information is not enough. We are drowning in data. The inspection report is data. The contractor quotes are data.
But data without context is just noise.
It is. The person who controls the outcome is the person who can translate.
The winner is the one who moves from, here is a list of broken things, to, here is my decision clarity.
That's it. Whether you're an agent trying to save a commission, a buyer protecting your family, or an investor protecting your capital, if you can't make that jump from data to clarity, you are at the mercy of the chaos.
And for you listening, if you are actually in the thick of this right now, maybe staring at a terrifying inspection report as we speak, the source material does have a call to action.
They do. They direct people to their concierge desk. If you have a report and you're feeling that panic, that conflict engine revving up, you can submit it to them.
Ask for an ICR if you're a buyer, or a DVA if you're an investor.
And they'll do the translation. They turn that phone book of defects into a decision path. So you can either save the deal or avoid the disaster.
I really appreciate that we're framing walking away as a victory. We don't hear that enough in an industry that's always shouting, buy, buy, buy.
The best investment you ever make is often the one you decided not to buy.
Because you saw the risk clearly. That's a powerful thought to leave on. It's not about the house. It's about the quality of the decision.
My pleasure. It's always fascinating to see how structure can tame chaos.
And to you listening, next time you get a document full of problems, remember, you don't need to panic. You just need to translate. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.